Hey everyone, so for this recipe I'm going to be making Joanne Gaines Mongolian table chocolate chip cookies. These are a staple in my family. My kids love chocolate chip cookies. I love chocolate chip cookies. And they're a really good recipe, and it's really simple. You don't need many ingredients. So we'll go through the ingredients first, like I always do. We've got our 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 heaping teaspoon of baking soda. We don't have any baking soda today at work, so I use baking powder instead. Now the substitution for baking powder versus soda is going to be 2 times the amount that what the recipe calls for. So this recipe called for 1 heaping teaspoon of baking soda, so I need to add 2 heaping teaspoons of baking powder in order to balance out that recipe. You're going to need a half a teaspoon of sea salt as well. 1 stick of softened butter. I let this butter sit out on the countertop all morning while I was working on my other recipes, and now it's at the perfect temperature for me to get going with my recipe. You then will need 2 cups of brown light sugar, 2 large eggs, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then chocolate chips, of course. So with my recipe, I'm going to begin with the butter. The butter, like I said, has been out nice and softened. I'm just going to scrape the remainder of it and make sure I get it in there. With that, you are going to do the butter and the light brown sugar first. You're going to mix this, cream it together for a couple minutes. You want to make sure that it's light and fluffy. So we're going to head and get that started. I'm going to show you here. Start it off at a low speed. I'm gonna just bump it up a little bit, and I'm just gonna let it do its thing over there. In the meantime, as I was reading my recipe, I realized I put 2 cups of flour, but the recipe calls for 2.5. So I'm gonna grab another half cup. Perfect. And then I'm just gonna mix that together with the rest of the flour, the salt that I had in there, and the baking powder as well. So I'm going to stop this. I'm gonna bring you back, take a look at the texture and the consistency of it. It has been beat for a couple minutes here. It's nice and smooth and creamy. That's exactly what we are looking for. Now at this point, since it has gotten to the point where it's nice and smooth, I'm going to add the 2 eggs to the mixture as well as the vanilla extract. So I'm going to add that to the mixture. I'm going to go ahead and let it continue to beat for another minute or so, just until those eggs get incorporated into it. Like I said, this recipe is very simple. It's very quick. There's not many ingredients to it. And the cookies taste great. And it's a good recipe to do with your kids too. My kids love to do it at home when we make them together. They love to add the chocolate chips to the recipe. I tend to let them eat a few of them in the meantime. But it gets them involved. It gets them excited about making it. So that's perfect. We added the eggs. Once again, I'm going to show you the consistency just so you can get a visual of it. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and add the flour mixture. Perfect. I want to make sure I got it all in there. Alright. So now you're going to start it off low. You don't want to get a full big cloud of flour in your face, so you start the mixer on low until it starts to incorporate together, and then you can bump up the speed a little bit until it starts getting to go. So this recipe, it is going to be more of a thick, chunky cookie, and that's exactly what you want. So I have started to see the dough already coming together. That's exactly what I want, so I don't want to overmix it. With that being said, now I'm going to add the chocolate chips to it. After you add the chocolate chips to it, then you want to beat it on high for like 30 seconds. Just real quick, maybe even less than 30 seconds to be honest. What was that, like 5 seconds? Just until those chocolate chips get incorporated into the mixer. So I'm gonna lower this here. I'm gonna show you guys what this mixture looks like. Doesn't that look delicious? So easy. So then what I've done behind me, and I'll just show you real quick, I have prepared a baking dish here. I've lined it with the parchment paper. I'm gonna use my ice scoop here. I'm just gonna scoop these and put them onto the sheet tray. Now you can use a tablespoon, you could do a heaping tablespoon of it and just go ahead and put that on the baking sheet, or you can use the ice cream scoop, whichever you have, whatever you have on hand. So once those are done, you're going to put those on the cookie sheet. You're gonna bake them in the oven. Let me check my recipe, make sure I tell you the right thing. Yes, at 325 for 10 to 11 minutes until they are nice and golden brown. Thanks guys.